Welcome back to the 365 Driven podcast. We've got a inspirational guest today that I've been following on Instagram for a few months now and actually shared his messages with our group. And he's got these really brilliant, soft spoken, just, self-care savage up is what he kind of uses as his moniker. But Scott Tatum, he's a hiker. You may have seen him if you're on any time on TikTok or Instagram. The guy has a million followers combined on both these platforms. It's incredible. And, he's just a dude walking with a hat on and a smile and giving words of advice. And, there's nothing crazy with the editing or anything like that with his videos, but the messages are what hit people, I think, the most. And those things really get shared. And, in the world of today and the chaos and all the uncertainty that's going on out there, it's good to have a message like this. But, Scott considers himself a nomad, a hiker, an explorer, an outdoor enthusiast, but he's always talking about self-care, mental health, and our public lands. And he claims that hiking and outdoors saved his life. So, nowadays Scott utilizes the outdoors as his own form of therapy to heal his mind, body, and soul. And this inspired him to create the platform using social media, delivering these messages so other people can enjoy those. So I wanted to bring to the show because this is something different for you guys. You'll learn some about social media, your message, your marketing, and what it takes to grow a million followers on two different platforms. It's crazy. So Scott, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks, Tony. I'm so happy to be here.
So people that may be not familiar with, maybe haven't discovered you, how would you describe your videos on these social platforms?
Well, they're of course, very short and to the point, and there's just not a lot of explanation around them. And so there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all these videos, and if you go back through my social media, I used to put up just pictures of when I was out hiking or whatever, and I just used to put memes up.
Mm-hmm.
All that this developed, all these are directed at me. So they were, I utilized them, I put them up, they were what I needed to hear. And so it was a way for me to get on social media and hold myself accountable. And it evolved into the videos when I got on TikTok a while back and started, understanding that and realizing the tension there. But for me, it's easier to take these messages. And when the reason people I think resonate with them is because if you look through people can go through my comments and all those things, and people are always saying, I feel like you're talking directly to me. I think you're looking straight at me. So when I do those, again, I'm talking to myself, and all the passion, or whether it's a little light or it's a little harsh or whatever, it's how I'm feeling at the time. That is 100% me. So even if I have a message or something I've read that morning through everything I do with my, my own self-care and all those things, when I'm out, whether it's hiking or like my son's right now, I'm at a park walking, whatever it is I'm doing, until I feel that, I don't turn the camera on.
Yeah.
So when you see that, that's real. It's not scripted. It could be a quote that I read earlier. It's not even my quote. But I made it mine because I maybe switched the words around, or just put some more oomph in it or whatever. And so I think that's what's happened. And they're very short. And I put some information in the comments, but I think that's what people their attention spans. And with social media, if we're talking about social media, people listening to long drawn out messages and things like that or can get very cluttered. A lot of it doesn't apply to people. This allows people, again, when I look through my comments, I learn and I evolve through that. Is, people come up with their own thought around it. It can be completely different than the other 10 people that looked at it. It's just how it applies to you. One of the things I've always told my kids, forever, and I still tell them today, they're all grown adults, take what fits and throw away the rest. And that's what these are meant to do for me, is to take this information that I read and look at it, and what you're looking at is how it fits for me. and it's just blown up and resonated with a lot of people. Hope that
That's
answers you.
no, I enjoy it. I mean, the opening line, friendly reminder. When
Yeah.
did that start, and why did you just choose at that time just to stay consistent with that, always that same opening line?
So, it's funny. I've been asked that a lot, and I even had this, this kid. This kid who was on when I was on the Appalachian Trail a few months ago. I had kind of probably a month into it, and I'm ran into this kid on trail. He was with a couple other guys, and he goes, "Are you that friendly reminder guy?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I said, absolutely. I said, I do. And I said, do you watch my stuff? He goes, no. He goes, but my mom does. And he goes, and she sent me your video and said, have you seen this guy on trail yet? Is she and and I said, that's great. I said, I said, hey, or he said, well, and so we took a picture and all that. But anyways, he goes, what's really cool about your page? He says, I can turn your Instagram page on and I can just scroll through everything really fast, and it just goes friend, 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 friend. So it was that kind of even helped me understand and click that tag and everything was just set up to as an opening, because I used to do those originally. Again, anybody wants to scroll through my stuff and see how I evolved. Originally, I started off with "You're gonna run out of time."
Hmm.
That was my tag: is "You're gonna run out of time," and then a lot of those things. And then I started, well, what can I do to expand on this a little bit? Because a lot of people are enjoying it. And I thought, well, I'll start some friendly reminders. Well, when I started the friendly reminders, that's when things kind of blew up, when I started saying, and as part of that, and nobody cared about the "you're going to run out of time." So it's kind of the same message. Excuse me. It's kind of the same message, but that's kind of just evolved through just always paying attention and testing and trying to do better. And again, I started this for me. I started thing on there again is at first directed at me, and because people have gotten so much out of it, because it's grown to this point, it inspires me. So I want to do better and I want to do more. So I keep trying new things. I keep, every once in a while you'll see me throw something up that's a little different or a little off. And the testing and all that is very important because I want to expand this message. I'm really into expanding this message. It's opened up so many opportunities. Like, I have a book coming out next year. I have all these things have evolved from friendly reminders. People are contacting me because of friendly reminders. So I don't think it'll ever go away. But it's kind of evolved from something else.
Man, I think there's a good psychological lesson in there with the messaging, because when you say you're out of time, that leans negative. If we look at messages and put them on a scale, that leans negative. Like, you're going to run out of time. And I use some of those messages too with my audience, but sometimes you need that impact, right? If it's random, but I can even tell by the engagement or the reaction that those stern, although true messages don't really resonate as well. And somebody may agree with it, but they may not hit the like button, or they definitely may not share it because it leans negative, right? So it's an urgency thing. It's a force thing, but friendly reminder is always positive. I mean, what could you not use negative in that? That's always going to be positive. So I like that you shared that, because that's a really important thing for people out there trying to get their message across. Is like, if it's always doom and gloom and it's always negative, you're going to appeal to some people that crave that, but it's going to be a very small minority of people that crave that, right? But everybody likes positive message. So think about this, because we got a lot of listeners that maybe not be able to see us on camera. And there's a lot of people out there that think, hey, I'm too old to use TikTok or Instagram, or, what is your age right now, Scott?
61.
61. So there you go. We got a guy that's 61, fully grown kids, using social media apps and really unapologetically just using it, going all in to get the message out there. And I think that's a beautiful thing to understand, because when we were younger, I'll be 50 soon, so I'm not too far behind you, but when we were younger, if you wanted to grow an audience, you had to have the gatekeepers. You had to know the gatekeepers. If you wanted to get on a radio show, if you wanted to get on TV, you just didn't go, hey, I want to be on the radio. I want to be on TV. And now we carry these devices literally with us in our pocket every single day that have access to millions of people if we grow our audience. And I think that's such an amazing, piece of technology that most people just take for granted nowadays, especially, the younger audience that grew up with devices in their hands. They don't understand how hard it was to get their message out there. And, even 20 years ago.
Yep. Yep. It was, yeah, things have evolved. And I feel grateful when you bring that up. And I tell people, especially my age, and that are very resistant to this. And again, I work with some smaller brands, and it's some things that I do, but it's my side hustles. But you know, coming from, I was born in 1960, and so I came to age in the 70s, and I've talked to my kids about. I won't get into long stories, but I think it's very, very important that if you are my age, you remember those things because they are important. We were fortunate that if I saw a girl somewhere and I wanted to go on a date with her or meet her, I actually had to walk up to her and do that. And through that, I had to go through all of those feelings of the self-doubt and the oh my gosh, and I mean, you had to muster up what to go be able to speak to a girl. And then if you got her number, then you had to wait until you called her and all that stuff flying through your head. And then when you called her, then you had another span. You had to wait until you went on that date or did whatever. So there's all that connection and all those feelings and all those things that get lost in social media.
Yeah.
And but that's just the way it is. This is the attention. This is what's going to happen. And if you're not on social media, and I don't care if you're 20 or you're 100, if you're trying to put a message out, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to whatever, and you're not on social media, you'll never do that because that's where all the attention is, and that's where it's going. And there's so much more that it's going to go there. But my point being is again just that bridge and understanding the way things used to be to where they are now. You have to make that transition. So I'm just grateful for all those things, that I was able to experience in this line of what we're talking about, and to now know what I do now. And the only reason that happened too is because of my kids, because my kids came of age right when the cell phones started coming out, and when they got into school, and then of course the internet came and all of this stuff, and then everything developed. And so I got on social media and on Facebook in 2010, for a small business reason and all that, and because I wanted to learn how to sell and do that, because it was always the way to go. Just like email, when it started being a big selling tool, I'm always interested in kind of the newer things, but my kids and knowing that part, kind of it's been great through that. And now arguably two of them I've completely surpassed, and even caring or the knowledge or building anything through it, with the other one being in it very entrenched. But yes, again, I hope I'm a zero backer. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, you basically need to learn to adopt technology and not just think you're too old to do it, especially if you got a mission or a purpose behind it. I think that, even a lot of times in our groups, in the coaching groups, we talked about doing videos, because it's very uncomfortable. Because I'll even share for me, like going back in 2015, 2016, not too long ago, I had stage fright, and I didn't discover that until 20 plus years in corporate. And so I knew that I had to go do something about that. So I joined a Toastmasters and I hired a speaking coach, and I just did reps, and I did videos like you every single day for over a year. And that's kind of like the brand 365 driven as well. So man, those first videos sucked. I felt really awkward. I didn't like my voice, or you and I are both in Texas, and I didn't like, I was like, people going to make fun of my Texas accent, things like that. Just these things that are in your head, right? And and as I started to do them, probably really the results come pretty fast. I would say within a month, you start to realize, like, okay, I'm not really that good yet, but this isn't as scary as it used to be. Like, why was I so scared about this thing? So Was there a period where you started to do the videos where you felt really awkward and just out of place at the same time?
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was really awkward. Again, being on the social media, again, you learn if you in doing this, you do have to learn and watch people, and you have to find those people that are real, because the problem with social media is all these people that you're watching are usually not going to be those awkward people. Those are
Right.
not the messages you get in front of you, because those are the people that just started and they're learning, and the ones that stick with it, whether it is a month or whether it's several years.
Mhm.
You you have to stay with it if you want to be on that platform. But yes, you also have to get out of your head. Again, those people you're watching, you have to remember they did evolve into that. If you want to feel better about that as you're learning, then go back and look at our stuff, you and I
Yeah.
stuff, or whoever stuff, and watch us being, stuttering and not having good cuts, or, having anything that kind of helps, pop that, whatever we're trying to say.
Mhm.
That you have to take time. And again, it's the reps, and other piece is the whole thing around, self-care savage, and this whole thing around the other piece too. And you will never get better, and you will never move forward in a social media world and platform if you don't stop giving a fuck what anybody thinks about how you look. How I don't care what you have on your face, or spit comes in your mouth like it did me 10, 20 minutes ago.
Mhm.
It's the way it is. And once you understand that, get comfortable with it, you learn that first of all, that's a lot of people, they appreciate, people that are real. And that's how you get your message. You're, again, like I was talking about, you know, when that comes on for me with friendly reminders, that's not, that's not scripted. It's, I'm feeling it right now. I want to put it out. And most of the time I don't have to retake it. I just maybe have to cut it, shorten it up, and, do whatever. But it's, it's reps. It's like anything else, and especially people our age that are technology
Mhm.
challenged. And again, part of doing the reps is then doing the work afterwards. Look, guys, we all know that it all, just like I promote with the self-care, a lot of my stuff resonates from the self-improvement stuff. It too is, look, you got to do the work. You're not doing the reps, whether it's sports or whatever. You're not going to get better. You're not going to stretch yourself. You're not going to grow. You're not going to meet any. You're not going to do any of that until you get that right, and push through all this stuff and do the work. Do the work.
Discipline equals freedom. He's pointing at it. That's Jocko, right?
That's
So,
right.
so Scott, I think that this is where wisdom steps in from our age, because you talked about when you learn to not give a fuck about what other people think or say about you. That's really hard, I think, when people, especially in their 20s or the 30s. But I started to realize that maybe in my late 30s, probably around 40, when we start to look a little bit more introspective and we have a little bit of confidence or success or just something that we can lean back on. When you're younger, we hear that like, oh, you shouldn't care what other people think. Like, we hear that our whole lives, and we nod our heads because we know it's agreeable. We should, but we feel like people are judging us, and we feel that people are, saying things, and we have these naysayers and haters and things like that. So let's get into that, because I think this is a very important message that we're going to get out there, and that's the really the crust of all the things that you create is around getting over that kind of stuff. So what do you say to the younger people? I mean, it's easy to say that, but is there a process that you kind of walk them through, or where they can really just not give a fuck? Let's be real.
Yeah. So again, it's just like what you said. Look, most of the hanging on to what we care about other people, and care about what they think of us and all that is, look, especially when we're younger, we're into the world of seeking out a partner. We're in the world of usually testing out jobs first. I mean, we're going through jobs. it's still ridiculous the amount of, of education that you have to go through that process to engage the world. But it's all these things that we're trying to still please our parents. Look, when you're younger, a lot of times you're still financially hooked into people or things. So you're still having to compromise yourself to please them. And so you have to continue to work those muscles and keep understanding that you can't have both. You're going to have to break that. Break that. You have to become independent thinker, independent mind. Look, remember, reading and absorbing content, information for whatever it is your world is about is so important to grow. And but you have to break all those things that are holding you back that you're beholden to. And again, if you're relying on a job just for the financial reasons and you're not breaking through that, well, are you in a mindset where you're okay going out and starting at the bottom of your own, starting your own little side hustle or business or whatever you're doing the grunt work, building it and all that while you're here to then break from this? And again, it's just, I know these are kind of all over the place as far as what you're asking, but it is so important. Again, the reps. Everything is about work. Everything is about reps. It's the work you're willing to put in. How fast you want to go is the work you're willing to put in. And also, we all have trauma. We all have damage from the past, whether how minimal it is, whether we came from a great family, great parents, and they're, but you were a nerd and you got bullied for that. Those are things that we're holding on to. And you got to learn to let that shit go. You've got to learn to, if you got to go back and deal with it, then go back and deal with it. You've got to learn what it is for you to do that. And it does take the time. You're not going to, there's very few people that can walk right into their 20s or anything like that. Coming out of high school and all that stupid peer pressure and all that stuff, you just can't turn it off. You just can't go, okay, I'm out of high school now, and now I'm cooler, now I can do what I want and think how I want. No, you're still trying to get through that. What middle school, high school is the most traumatic part of our kids' lives, no matter where you come from. All those messages of the adults and the parents that screw us up. And I always say these things because I'm just so, look, I come from a very heavy psychology background. I was an administrator for an adolescent residential treatment center for years. I grew up in that with a single mom. And all that is, it's powerful stuff that you can't always walk away from. It's going to rear its ugly head. And it won't allow you to move forward. It won't allow you to make those decisions that keep building for you to keep understanding you can stand on your own. And a lot of that's growth. A lot of it is those 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds latching on to the again, the self-improvement things, to again, whatever they are, whoever you resonate with. I mean, look, I'm a 61-year-old man. And the people I watch are David Goggins and Jocko and I don't know if you know who Cameron Haynes is, and these
Bow hunter.
people that are and are just crushing it. And the reason they resonate with me, and I think a lot of younger people are starting to kind of get that, is it's not just about those guys can climb mountains and record times and just be these beasts in what they do physically. But they can't do that if they weren't here. And a lot of that and a lot of their messages, because they get more hate than anybody because they do extraordinary things and people are jealous or they're cheating or they're full of shit. But those guys, you go to their social media, which is what all this we're talking about too, they're doing it. Here I am. This is me when I wake up. The camera's on. They are doing it. I don't listen to anybody anymore. And that's the other thing too, with young people, you've got to only listen to people that have been there, done that, and doing it, and or any of that combination. Stop listening to your parents that have never been down that road and telling you that's a bad way to go. Stop listening to those people. So this is a big thing. And this is that self-care status message that I'm trying to tie into this. You have got, with this kind of stuff and not caring what people think, you have got to go hard on yourself. You have got to become self-care status. Take care of yourself first. You're not going to be better for other people unless you're at your best for yourself. That means a parent, leaders, managers, whatever it is you do, you cannot be your best if you're not you cannot be your best for people if you're not your best for yourself. And you have to do that first. You know, it's the whole thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. So again, a long thing around what would I tell 20 and 30-year-olds and all that, it's you've got to go down that path of becoming very independent mentally, and be willing to fail, and walk into your fears. One of the things I always do, everything for me too, whatever challenges I have for that day, or if I've got things going on, and I've got choices, my first choice is always going to be what scares me the most. And, that's the only way. Again, this is that self-care savage mentality, using these tricks and all these things. And I haven't invented these things. I learned these things and I've applied them to how they work to me. And I just put that message out a little differently, in a lot of ways. And you will find yourself, people say all the time, what would you go tell your younger self? Look, it'll be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But you have to keep moving. You have to keep improving, and you have to learn to be disciplined. Motivation is fleeting, right? All these things.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying,
And
people should know
this
by
is a
now,
lot.
motivation is not something to hang on to.
I mean, all of this segment here, I would say go back and rewind that and listen to that again, because he shared a lot of good nuggets in that segment there. And the thing is like, I'm a business coach and I help people start, scale, and exit businesses. And sometimes people will come to me wanting to start their business, and they're in their mid 30s or 40s. And we start to go down the rabbit hole of asking them questions on why they want to start this business. What's the real purpose behind that? And ultimately, I'd say that most of them are just unhappy doing what they're doing. And here's the shocker. Some of these people are very highly compensated in their salary jobs, and they've been doing it for 15, 20 years, and they're really good at what they do. And this resonates with me because that was my former life as well, oil and gas engineering. And we've heard the phrase, and I know you've heard the phrase, that the salary that you accept is the cost of your dreams. And people are like, whoa, what does that mean? It's like, well, most people are unwilling to sacrifice their career or their job because it pays them enough to tolerate it. And they're not willing to go step out there and go create something new. So basically that salary that you accepted is the price of your dreams. And you talked about having to make space and clear some of the stuff out to be able to go do the things that you want to have a more fulfilling, a more happy life. It's not always about the money. I think about the money kind of things all the time. I've seen that your lifestyle doesn't drastically change every time you make these different tax brackets. It's just, you get a little bit nicer stuff, but at the end of the day, are you mentally and physically sound and happy and fulfilled at the level that you were previously? And if you were, sometimes going backwards is the right answer. I think too many people nowadays just pursue like numbers and status and notoriety without any understanding that they're sacrificing or potentially sacrificing their happiness or fulfillment or their purpose. So don't be afraid to realize like, hey, I'm only a doctor because my mom and dad told me I needed to be a doctor because my granddad was a doctor and my dad was a doctor, and that was the only choice I had. But hey, no, they're paying me $400,000 a year, so I can't, go away from this. I can't waste my degree. It's like all these sunk cost fallacies, right? I mean, literally my engineering degree is hanging on the wall right there, and it's got a layer of dust on the top of the frame, and it's not being used. It hasn't been used in years. And so understand that the education that you have, the experience that you have, the salary that you have, that's the past if you look from a perspective of today. And what do you want to do? What is it that really lights your fire? What is the thing that you want to go out there in the world and create? And could you do a little bit more of that? Could you do it? Just put your pinky toe into the pool and kind of just start to aim that direction. I'm not saying go all in right now and jump without a parachute, but understanding if there's something out there that you need to go accomplish, take some actions, learn some skills, get some abilities, find a mentor, people that can actually help you start moving in that direction. And soon enough, you'll realize that you're going to have the confidence and the skill set to be able to walk away from the thing that's really just dragging you down. So that's a long journey, and it's not easy. It's going to take years, not weeks, not months. It's years. But you got to be willing to do that, to do the reps, like you said, gain the discipline. And here's the other thing, that when we do things that we're aligned with, things that we love, we don't really need the motivation to go do those things, do we? We have the discipline to
No,
do those things. We just go, hey,
right.
this is the result.
It becomes your life.
Yeah, I don't feel like doing it today. I go to the gym 6 days a week. I would say half the time I don't feel like going, but I know that I've never left the gym regretting having been there. So
You know, discipline and filling those gaps. Yep.
the other mindset thing here, I was actually having this conversation over dinner with my wife last week about mindset. And she's like, well, where do you think that your strong mindset came? And although there's a lot of different stories, here's the thing that I haven't shared on this show before. I would say that I gained my strongest competitive mindset, not on a football field, not in martial arts, not any of those things that I did when I was younger, but really in my 20s. And what happened in my 20s was that I used to love playing pool, man. I was a collegiate champion in 9 ball, and I would go to all these pool halls, and would anything in Louisiana and Texas, I would travel around with my roommate and we'd go play these tournaments. And I would spend hours and hours a day, every day almost. Like, I was waiting tables at the time. I was a student. I would get off from work and I would go to the pool hall and I would spend a couple hours every single day practicing and gambling and doing things like that. And so when you're at a pool hall, you got a variety of characters that you're up against. And there are guys that are, they're hot shots in their 20s, and there's guys in their 40s and 50s and 60s, sometimes even 70s. And they have all these different levels of mindset and mental toughness. And I started to realize that, some of these guys had unbelievable skill. They were exceptional at the precision and cutting the ball and the banks. But you'd see them competing and somebody would get in their head and they would just self-destruct. Like, they could have all the skill in the world, but if somebody rattled their cage, they would literally, their arm might as well just fell off and just not even completed the set. So I realized early on that the mindset is everything. It doesn't matter if you got the skills, but if you can't perform those skills in the heat of battle, then does it really matter? Because the ones who could win, they weren't always the most talented, but they were the ones with the strongest mindset that had the belief and the confidence in their skill set to deliver the result. And so when you're going against these guys that are 10, 20, 30 years older than you, and they're trying to rattle your cage, initially that's going to screw you up. It's going to screw you up, but you become hardened over time. You start to compete. You go, this guy talks a lot of trash. He's going to be like trying to stand in my way and shark me and get my attention and distract me. But you start to realize, I'm just going to be focused on the game. I'm just going to execute. And if I miss, I'm not going to beat myself up or get embarrassed about that and go pout on my stool in the corner and wait for a few racks for them to finish the game, because they're just going to keep running out on me. So I would just go, hey, I missed. What did I learn from that? Boom. Okay. It's not going to happen again. Give me another opportunity to get back on this table, because if I do, I'm going to wipe his ass. And that's how I would think. And I did that for 10 years. And so you want to know where I get the competitive mindset and understand that, hey, they're further advanced than me. They've been there, they've done that, but I was able to compete and beat them eventually. And it's like, that's where I got the strongest mindset. And it's because I wasn't hanging around with a bunch of people my age.
No, it's that I get that. I used to play a lot of pool too, and things like that. But it develops for people in different ways. And a lot of what you're saying too is what's holding people back. And I'm going to keep tying my message into a lot of this, is a lot of people can't get to that point. Even though they want to, they get it. They understand that that's what they're missing. A lot of people, more than not, in my experience, are letting still all that stuff, all that baggage, all that stuff from whatever's gone on in their life, that's put them in that lack of self-worth and love and all that, that you can't get to what you just talked about. Yeah. Tony, you know that unless you're confident, you use those words that are, confident, you feel you've got some worth. You don't have confidence if you don't have some worth. So a lot of times, if there's this, you can't get there. You know what you need to do. You're observing and experiencing it, and you've learned that's that next little turn you need to make. You may have to just take a second and go back, and you got to clean that up, however that is. And I don't know if that's going to be 2 years therapy. I don't know if it's just you going back to it, say it, fuck this, it doesn't, this is not who I am and whatever. And you can, in a day, go outside, go get on some trails and go clean that shit up and let it come out, let it just get all in there and learn how to crush it. Mindset, just like that. Take that, crush that, and now go crush everything else. It's you gotta clean it up.
It's important to understand when we have all these beliefs that we don't understand where we adopt these beliefs. It's because we were raised by our parents or teachers or authority figures, our friends, or neighborhood or society. So like when Scott mentioned, like when we're, the middle school and high school, that's our formative years. We build our belief structures, and we build some really strong beliefs around religion and politics and all these different things based on what our surroundings were. And I want you to understand this as a listener. Think about this, is that your parents at that time were young. They were probably in their 20s and 30s, man. They were young people, and they were doing the best they can with their own limited belief systems. And you just adopted what they had, and you never really questioned that, because at those ages, we're like a sponge we're looking for some kind of a basis. We're looking for a foundation, and we adopt our parents' beliefs and our teachers' beliefs and things like that. And we don't question those things because those people love us, and those people are older than us, and those people are, wiser than us. So we just think this is the truth. And, I want people to understand this. This is a weird thing to understand. Like, no matter how strong your belief is in something right now, whether that's politics or religion or anything that you see that's going on in this world, no matter how strong your actual belief is in some subject right now, realize that it could have been equally strong, 180 degrees, the opposite effect, had you just been born with a different set of parents or in a different zip code or a different city or a different country. And so that's the mindset trick. Like, whoa, like I'm just programmed with all these things, and some things are great, some things are bad. But here's what I gained from my age and looking back. In their 20s, you think you know everything. You think like, I'm going to be independent, like especially in your late 20s. You guys are really cocky in your late 20s. And then you get to like 35 and you look back at your 20s and go, man, I didn't know shit. Like I was a dumbass. And then you get to 40 and go, man, I thought I knew everything at 35, but I was kind of still of a dumbass at 35. And then you get to 50 and you go, man, I thought I knew a lot at 40. So as we age, we gain this wisdom looking back that we didn't know nearly as much as we thought we did at those ages, but we also become more excited about the uncertainty in the future to come, because we realize that, man, if I didn't know shit at 40, then I'm probably not going to know shit at 50 by the time I'm 60 looking back. And you get excited about, well, what can I learn? What can I get out there and figure out and read and surround myself with? And now you get on this journey of always questioning, or really just dissecting your beliefs and going, hey, why do I believe this thing? What is this true? Does this serve me? Is this going along in my purpose? Is this something I'm aligned with? Like, what is it that I believe, and where did this come from? And if you can start to look back and rebuild where that original thought it even came from, you might be like, oh, that was my 6th grade teacher said that to me. Like, I'll never have muscles or something, just something weird, right? Or I'll never be a successful person, or, maybe an ex-girlfriend said something really hateful to you and it just stuck, right? And you built that into your identity. So when you go back, like Scott said, and figure out, where did that come from? And does this serve me today? And you're able to make that distinction and have that awareness. Yeah. That's when you get to break free from those old things and the old descriptions and the old identities that you've created. And then you look back sometimes at your parents, and when they had good intentions, and you go, well, maybe that's just something my dad believed, but he didn't have any experience. I mean, when I asked my parents, like business, I sold a company, my first company I sold for millions of dollars, I was 34. And I built other companies and I started doing different things. But even though I did all this stuff and I accomplished this thing and I was financially secure, my mom would still ask me if I was looking for a job. And my mom would ask me, like, are you going to use your engineering degree? I paid for that. She didn't pay for that. I put myself through school. But they had that scarcity mindset where to them in their era, knowing this is that their baby boomer generation, and they said, having a steady job was like the most important thing in the world, like having food on the table and a steady paycheck. And so I understand where that thought process comes from, and I adore, and I don't challenge her, but I understand where it comes from. But realize that I was raised with that same mindset, and I had to break free from that and understand that I just say, "Hey, thanks, mom. I'm okay, mom. I'm okay." I just comfort her and say, "I'm okay, mom. I'm not asking you for money. I'm good." So it took probably her 10 something years to finally realize, like, I'm not going to go get a job. Like, it's just not going to happen. Right.
That's a good way you handle that with her too. That's kind of what I got out of that too. I mean, you gotta give your look, whatever is against happened in your past. I know some things are hard to let go of and forgive, but you gotta look. Where I come from is very, very abusive type alcoholic father growing up and all that. But and that's what was a main key that kept me screwed up for a long time.
Mm.
But when I studied him and I went back and looked, he's dead now, been dead 20 years. And looked at really where he came from, what he went through, uh, running away from home at 15 because they were poor and they didn't have food, to join the Navy, to then being shipwrecked and for days. And I just imagine the stuff he went through. And then of course, he latched onto alcohol and, he didn't have a chance. He never had a chance. And the other piece about social media, I'm going to try to stay on track here. This is the beautiful thing about social media. You can, all this stuff is in your face. There's not really any reason for anybody, because of this, to not be able to gain all the information they need to overcome whatever it is they need to overcome, because it's right there. What we were talking about when we were kids, I mean, still, things were evolving, with technology, things like that a little bit. But back then, those guys, the greatest generation, stuff like that, all that was not a pleasant time.
No.
And most people did not. There's nobody in your face. You would have had been one in a 400 gazillion to run into that influence that was in your environment almost on a daily basis to get the messages you needed to push through that. But my point being is I learning and in forgiving and understanding, like with your mom, just being gentle with her. You don't need to tear her down. You don't need to, I can't believe you did this to me, mom. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. All these things that a lot of people, it doesn't solve anything for anybody. It just causes more damage and keeps you sick until you heal. But that's how I got past and forgiven him. And instead of having a memory about my dad, I talked about this recently, actually, did a little video on it. The memories of my dad now are not, the things that disrupt my day or cause me to drive that thorn in. Oh, you're really not good. Don't do that video. Nobody's going to listen to you, you idiot. Whatever he would say to me. But those aren't messages. That's not what I get anymore. I actually am pulling out the things that when I have a memory, it's a good memory. It's a memory of some kind of influence you have. But my point being, that's part of it too, is letting it go and understanding where it came from. Like you said, go back and or understand where that message came from. I understand why my dad, I was a target of his rage. That doesn't make it okay. It's not, that's not what I'm saying. I think you know that. It's just that it's because of that, it's made it okay for me. So I just don't think a man, especially in these days, and I'm not excluding women, but because I'm just a male, so there's just a lot of focus on that and where I'm coming from, where I need to look. You guys out there in this, your audience, and what you're trying to do and develop people and train and business, you're trying to create leaders, if not for others as well, but for themselves. And most leaders are going to end up being influenced. And we know as father, I'm not a religious person, very spiritual, but I do believe that everybody, like in a family system, is a leader. not just the male, but the mom, everybody is leading by example. And that's the other piece of this too, is you've got to be able to lead, be vulnerable. You've got to be able to tell stories, like story you just told. You've got to be able to do that for people to resonate with you and to be able to understand, and gives you little tools and tricks in there as you're doing that. So all this self-care that I promote and being the best you can be is only going to make you a vicious leader, and is only going to resonate in anybody you touch and whatever you do, because you're leading by example. And this is what develops us to be leading by example, is going through what you just talked a lot about, that whole process, and and then tying in the taking care of yourself. So
This is a good topic. This kind of makes me think about one topic that I see that's really prevalent in social media, and also just the circles of entrepreneurship and things like that, is the word is self-care. Okay. It's
Yep.
it's focusing inward and understanding that there's things that are not always good in our lives. There's history, there's things that we have to gain the awareness of to break those chains, and just really just to surround ourselves with people that can give us different perspectives and insights, and also support and love, right? But I see this problem with some people. They hop from group to group to group. They're always looking externally for the answer. And I think it's okay to listen to different shows, read different books, and gain different perspectives, because you're going to find the message that resonates with you. But the thing is if you're not getting something in the group that you're at, and you think that you're going to find a better result just hopping these different groups, because these people aren't just making one move, they're doing one, two, three, four. You see them on your social media, you're friends with these people, but you don't ever see them improve. Like, they'll be doing this for years, they'll be doing it for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. You just see them hopping around, and it's like, man, just could you just pause for a second and just start looking inwards and actually realize that you have all the tools. You've already learned from everything. You've read all the books, you've listened to all the shows. Like why can't you just pause for a second and realize that it's not the external thing that's going to create the change? It's like the thing that you have to do is the hard part. It's looking in the mirror and learning how to love yourself and have confidence for yourself and be able to look yourself in the eye. It's tough, man. That's the hardest part. So what do you recommend? 'Cause it sounds like your backstory, you've had to go through some of that. So maybe share a reflection on where you decided to just call yourself out and go, dude, I need to fix this.
absolutely. So and again, I'll keep this short and feel free to cut it. Look, so again, I'm not going to get into all of the things when I was growing up.
Mhm.
I think it's on it enough where anybody can put some things together. It's different for everybody. It's another reason I resonate with, if you look at the stories of David Goggins, you look at the Cameron Haynes, those people that, he's got a book that just came out, Endure, Cameron Haynes. I'm not promoting that, I'm just saying that. But I learned a lot about him. I've been following him for years, but I learned a lot about him. And I resonated a lot because, again, a lot of his childhood was very similar to mine, different, but similar.
Mhm.
Same thing with David Goggins. So I learned to have survival skills at a very early age. I learned to, when the monster was coming in the room, how to a lot of times be able just to melt into the wall and not be seen somehow. Somehow, whatever mentally I was able to do, to something I said. Anyways, just learn how to, for years, it's kind of like you see in movies and things, it's kind of stupid, but it's real for you go into a restaurant or you go somewhere and you sit at there's a chair where you can kind of, okay, there's that exit there. You just learn these dumb things that are in your head. They weren't dumb then. Look, I probably lived through some of that because of that, but you can't bring that into your adulthood. I did. So I brought all those ways to make decisions, how I operated, how I dealt with relationships, my 2 marriages, and all those kind of things were all these skills that didn't belong there anymore. And I didn't deal with them, never did, even though I had all the information. I had all the psychology. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I should do, but I just kept continuing to have excuses around, why I needed to hold on to those things, because I was weak and didn't want to do the work. So I'll try to zoom this up now. So my second marriage ended 12 years ago. My boys were 13 and 15 then. They came with me. And there was several more years that went by, and they were getting close to coming out of school and things like that. Anyways, I got to a point. Okay, this is where I talk about hiking the outdoors saved my life. I got to a point where I just gave up on myself. I didn't give up on myself. And when I say save my life, I wasn't going to go on a mountain and jump off. I had just resigned to, I'm done, I'm exhausted. Something's not working, which I knew what was, living this life of disaster with pretty much anything I touched. I get to a pinnacle, talk about the self-sabotage, just get right there and just not having that self-worth and love. And I throw that wrench in there. Let's see if we can screw this up. Well, I did, but I just was tired, exhausted. And my kids were coming to an end, and I loved my kids. One of the great things I was a real good dad, exhibited a lot of poor behaviors like any dad can and will do. But I was a great dad. I loved the Indian guides, coaching the T-ball, and my oldest son played golf, and we traveled for a lot for that. I just love that stuff. And that was all coming to an end too. Now whatever I had left was coming to an end. And again, exhausted, tired. I was just, so I'd given up. And so I just said, you know what, I'm done. I even told my boys this. This is my boys fixing to come out of high school. And I said, look, guys, I'm done. I'm just going to wake up every morning. I'm just going to do my deal and wait till I die. I just don't, it was real saying that out loud and going through that. And so I don't know what it was. It was happenstance somehow, but living in Texas, where Lake Texhome is and all that, and proximity to where I was in McKinney. And I was driving around one day or whatever, and I just drove up there. And there were some trails there. There's actually some pretty decent little cool trails there. Anyways, I just got out of my truck and I was kind of walking around and, going through all this self-loathing and staying the victim and just, I started walking on a trail. And I was physically exerting myself. It was quiet. I didn't have my phone, or if I did, I don't remember. Some of it I don't exactly remember, but I just know I wasn't paying attention to it. I wasn't involved. I got it. Something snapped where that's all it was there. And so I started, that message just kept going. And there wasn't anything that wasn't playing in my head about what a loser I am. Look at what you've done to you. Look at the people you've that look for you for guidance. And look at all these things that you've just screwed up. And it just kept going. And I couldn't shut it off. I couldn't shut it off. And it was so loud because all the noise was gone. I wasn't in my truck. I wasn't in the city. I wasn't listening to the air conditioning coming on the house. It wasn't all that stuff that distracts us. It was just all there. So I just kept going and going and going. I don't really remember how far I went. I remember I was tired. I remember it got dark. And by the end of it, it just went on for so long is what I connected the dots to. It kind of got light. It kind of got lighter. It kind of got, again, I don't look at this and try to dissect it into I had some sort of a spirit, whatever it is. I just know being out there somehow resonated connection and everything got quiet. And granted, it got turned back up.
Oh yeah.
But I was able to go out there. So once you learn to go out into the outdoors and the hiking and what I learned and why I immersed myself in it, it's what my life is, and I talk to people about is being able to go out there, shut off all the noise, let it happen. I don't care how much it hurts. I don't care how worse it gets. You've got to go through that let it quiet a little bit, and then you can deal with it. Then you start figuring out how you learn. I've been doing this so long. It's just like going on the Appalachian Trail.
Mhm.
94 days, 1,436.2 miles. And I went out there to test myself mentally. And again, I'm into doing hard things. That's my deal. You know, break myself down, hurt myself. How am I going to respond to that? Do all that. And what was reinforced to me is if there's anything, my mind is there. Again, there's still a lot of work I have to do, but I just talked about my dad, all these things, it took a lot of time, depending on what your level, whatever you have to deal with and the kind of person you are. But that's what all happened with that and what got me where I am. And so I have these, have you ever seen the movie 300?
Oh yeah, great. I've seen it 300 times.
Yeah, so Gerard Butler. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have that's what I put in my head. I have 300 badass motherfucking demon killers. And so if I can't kind of adjust that myself, I can literally shut that thought down and it's sick those 300 on those demons and they will squash them. That's where you have to get. That's where the self-care savage comes from. That's where you have to heal and you have to get those thoughts and you have to be able to train your mindset to get that stuff out of there. And I don't care what tool you have to do. That's just how I learned how to do it and the things I've created. And
dude, I love that story. I love it. That's a powerful story, man. I'm really glad you shared that because we're getting here at the end of the episode, man. That was amazing. And here's a weird thing that you talked about the movie 300, the Spartans, right?
Yes.
I'm a member of a group. Yeah, I'm a member of a group called the Arate Syndicate, and that's a group that's run by Ed Milet and Andy Frizella.
Yeah, absolutely.
The logo, I don't know if you can see it. Well, where am I at here? Down there, like you can see on the little, like there's a license plate on my right there where my finger's at.
I think so, but it's blurred.
Yeah, it's blurred, but that's the logo that's on the Spartan shield. That's their
Oh,
logo.
really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's a kind of a connection there. So yeah, I enjoy that movie, and I like the mental trick of just turning the 300 combative soldiers out there to go take on what was perceived to be the biggest monsters of the empire, right? At least these giants and things. So, you know, the nature thing, it makes a lot of sense. My wife and I, we both like to go hike. We like to get out in nature. We live in a wooded area. I have wild animals running past my window all day. I've got deer and hogs and fox and bobcats, and now there's a cougar that got reported over in the neighborhood. So I have all these wild animals running around. And so I am very in tune with just grounded with nature. And I love to see the beauty of the animals and just their interactions and things like that. And so I get that. And I think that does give you a peaceful moment. And when you're out there walking in the woods and you realize like these things have been here, thousands of years, and like I'm just a speck in the time scale for these things.
So big out there. It's
yeah.
So big, so much bigger. You start realizing it's so much bigger.
Yeah, we just got back from Bar Harbor, Maine 2 weeks ago, where we went hiking a couple of days out there, and it was a Cadillac Peak and things like that. It was beautiful out there. And so a lot of our trips involve just going to places to go do some hiking. And on my bucket list and still on my vision board is to go do the Machu Picchu. I want to do the actual hike. I don't want to ride the bus to the top and take pictures. I'll actually, find some people that actually want to go do that, because I think it's like 3 or 4 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And that's the key too. Just the last thing, because I know we're just about is look, you got to do that. You got to learn to spend a lot of that time alone, isolated. That's and get good at it. And even just starting slow, even if you've never done it, just go on a 30-minute, an hour, a week. I mean not a week. Just doing it every day, and then then every once in a while, take a night, just go sleep by a lake somewhere where it's safe. You don't have to worry about things, and just let yourself. You got to give yourself. If you want to get better, you want it to fast. It's the antidote. It is the antidote to healing. It just is. It was for me. Again, I don't ever know what to do. It's what it was for me. It's the antidote. It is absolutely the antidote.
I think it is. I think when people are struggling with things, go change your surroundings, and what better place than go do it in nature where you're actually surrounded with, we are animals, even though we wear clothes and shoes, and like we belong in nature. We really do. So I love that message, man. And we're wrapping up here, and I wanted
Okay.
to give the opportunity because I asked you before you came on here to share like one of your typical messages so people can hear those things, your friendly reminder. And let's hear one that you may have come up with for this group.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is y'all listen up here. So friendly reminder, right now, this moment, the only moment that matters
That's it.
for you.
Short and sweet and to the point. And you guys go follow him on
Power of now.
Instagram and TikTok. Again, he's got about 1 million followers across those two platforms because of his messages. And he's just a good dude. And you can find him at You Can Outdoors with a U, the letter U, Can Outdoors on both of those platforms. And Scott, thank you for spending some time with us and really sharing your message. I think more people need to hear this, and this is definitely going to be one of my favorite episodes.
Nice. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I learned a lot from you, and hopefully your listeners got something from it.